I feel like back when I was younger, kids were split into two groups regarding adult video games. The ones whose parents just didn't give a hoot and bought them whatever they wanted, and the ones who were like, "You're a bit too young for that, little Jimmy." Well, I was little Jimmy. This was around the time that super influential games by Rockstar were coming out, like Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City and San Andreas, which were redefining the sandbox adventure genre. I did get to try these games at my friends' houses, but if my mum caught me owning one of those games, she would have lopped my arm off. In fact, I remember being around 10 years old and really wanting this Robot Wars game that was rated 11 plus at the time, so I asked my mum if I could even get a whiff of its teen-rated musk. And she said yes! Why is she playing with my feelings like this? So yeah, Rockstar was shitting out hit releases, and one that goes under the radar a bit is the topic of today's video, Canis Canem Edit, or Bully as it's known everywhere else. Bully was originally released in 2006 for the PS2, a pretty late release considering the Xbox 360 was already out, and the PS3 was very close. But with how long the PS2 was supported for, I guess it's not that mind-blowing. I first came across Bully at my friend Sam's house. I think it was his brother playing it, but I thought it looked awesome, until I learned the fact you're actually a bully, which young me did not approve of. Many years later though, after playing San Andreas and loving it, I decided to come back to Bully and give it a try. Now I've only played through the game once as of this video, but as it stands, I think this is one of Rockstar's best efforts. But does it hold up all these years later? Well, if it gets a 5-star from Nuts, why does this video even have to be made? So the main unplayable character is the lovable miscreant Jimmy Hopkins here, who has been expelled from half a dozen schools and now has been dropped off at Bullworth Academy by his mother and new stepfather for a whole year while they take their honeymoon. You'd think if they had enough money to go on a honeymoon for a year, they could have found a better place to drop him off than this dump. I don't think we look out of place in a World War II film. In fact, it kind of is a war zone. You've got kids picking fights with each other all the time while the prefects are desperately trying to maintain some order. Even the teachers are crazy shits who get the students to paint them in risque positions and pay the kids to keep their alcohol addictions going. And that's just a taste of the absurdity here. Hell, later on you have to rescue one from a mental asylum. I can tell you now that was not on the back of the box. After getting accustomed to his new prison cell, school living quarters, he meets his future best buddies Gary and Petey, and after a little square up to get a whiff of each other's manly musk, Gary shows Jimmy around the school and tells him about the stereotypical groups of kids he can find around the place.
Okay, here's the deal. Over there we got the nerds. Of course they're complete social outcasts.
They look pretty harmless.
They're actually sneaky bastards. Their turf is the library. And those are the preps. They're all money and condescending attitudes.
Yeah, massively inbred and completely brainless.
Very observant, Jimmy boy. Now over there are the greasers. They think they're tough.
Or at least try to look tough.
Wouldn't advise messing with them. At least not yet. They hang by the auto shop. And last but not least, the Jocks. These guys rule the school. Definitely avoid them.
Whatever, I'm not afraid of some dumb roid monkeys.
Gary tells Jimmy he wants to rule the school, and he has plans to allow him to do so, and asks Jimmy if he's willing to help him on his mission. Jimmy agrees, probably because he hasn't got much better to do at this point, and then Gary does a weird laugh.
I should have stopped taking those pills ages ago.
It doesn't take long for Gary to betray Jimmy, however, by leading him to an underground fight against the biggest bully in the academy, Russell Northrop, which is a name that just screams "my dad beats me." After defeating the mammoth of muscle, Jimmy earns the respect of the bullies and adds their power to his oncoming army. And this is just chapter 1 of the game. Each chapter is centered around Jimmy trying to earn the respect of the cliché groups, which have been thrown into chaos by Gary's manipulating behind the scenes.
Tad, you're not gonna take that kind of crap from this scumbag, are you?
You've been rude about mommy. Let's get this, Papa.
It's a great setup. It keeps the story moving while introducing new characters and keeping things interesting while doing a good job to disguise the formulaic approach to each chapter, as Jimmy must do different things to earn the respect of each group in a new way, whether it be brawling with the aforementioned bullies or taking on the nerds in their hideout with spud guns and slingshots. The story doesn't just focus on Gary and the factions at the school either. He'll go on dates, help out teachers, whatever shady business they're up to, or even help some adults around the town. The game keeps throwing intriguing scenarios at you, while also rewarding you with money or new items. It's a fantastic feeling of progression, not in just what you can do, but also learning about the people around you as well. One of the standout missions for me was one where you head to the carnival and have to go through this old abandoned funhouse to beat up some jocks. You can even use some animatronics to "holy shit, he's dead!" It's quite ironic really, because the controversy this game caused when it was released, because you're not actually the bully in this game.
Look, I never said anything about your mom or farmyard animals.
You did it?
No, but I want you to stop bullying weak kids.
Why?
Because there are a bunch of kids around this place who need a beating, and you're picking on the few who don't.
Now, I'm not going to go on a tangent about how Jimmy is a complex character, but he's definitely an interesting one due to his anti-hero personality. He genuinely does want to rule the school, but to calm the fighting down so everyone can get along with each other. He does want to place himself above everyone else, and he'll use extreme measures if he deems it necessary, but he is upfront about his goals, and contrasting to the rest of the comically one-dimensional cast, he comes off as pretty relatable, wanting power for selfish reasons, but those reasons would have a positive effect on those around him. This is definitely the best narrative I've experienced in a Rockstar game, and maybe it's because of the smaller size of the world, so you run into the same characters more frequently, so you not only see how they interact with Jimmy, but with each other too, so you see how they create a real sense of community within the town and the school. In turn, it feels like the story is far more focused than other Rockstar games. Plus, these are kids. They can't just pick up rocket launchers and go shoot tanks down. Well, maybe in America, but everywhere else, their squabbles are on a smaller scale, and to me that's more interesting. If you've played a Grand Theft Auto game before, you'll be right at home with Bully. The world is a big open area for you to explore in any way you see fit. Well, as long as you've progressed far enough in the story. Certain areas won't be available until you've cleared certain chapters, so the game whets your appetite of a new area to explore each time you further the narrative. For example, in Chapter 1 you're only let loose around the school, whereas afterwards you're allowed into the main town. Since you're at school, you're going to have to attend classes, and it's here that I do want to mention I'm playing the Scholarship Edition, which updated the game to look sleeker, sound better, and adds more content like extra classes, clothes and weapons.
I did originally want to go through the PS2 version again, but I went and gosh diddly darn broke. Scholarship Edition is the definitive version of the game. Well, the 360 version is, because the Wii version was unfortunately released in the 2006 to 2009 era.
That means weirdly integrated motion controls, and while they're not terrible, they are what I'd call severely intrusive, especially coming from someone who's played the PS2 version first. A lot of mandatory motion controls were just done with the press of a button in the original game. The fact the game forces you to use the Wii remote and nunchuck also means some odd button mapping, like having you press both plus and minus for a cup in your skateboard. That's awkward as fuck, might as well ask you to physically slap your Wii remote down and skateboard it. I just wonder how the developers looked at both controllers and said, how are we supposed to play a game designed for this on this? The motion controls in class are alright. Using the Wiimote to simulate tipping a chemical into another vial is fairly immersive, but outside of class they can be a nightmare, especially when it comes to combat. You use the Wiimote to swing a right hook and the nunchuck to swing a left. This really interrupts the pace of combat because the controls, nunchuck especially, can be unresponsive, which is so weird because the first person motion controls are more sensitive than this guy.
Your sign is fucking offensive!
Luckily you can target with C, so it's not a problem most of the time, but there are some missions where you're required to use the first person aiming, so good luck with that.
It's just faster and easier to press a button. Give us couch protectors what we fucking want.
Mmm, so tasty.
It doesn't quite ruin the game, but I just don't see the need for changing a 100% will work all the time button press to an 80% won't work sometimes motion waggle. There was just none of these issues in the PS2 original. You're going to get somewhat used to it in time, but I would definitely recommend the 360 version over this one. That being said, controls wise the Wii version is still perfectly playable, it's just lesser, which is a big shame, since this is one of the few third party games on Wii that wasn't complete shit. Anyway, back to the classes. There are 10 classes altogether, with 6 from the original version and 4 new classes added for Scholarship. Biology, English, Music, Chemistry, Shop, Gym, Art, Geography, Photography and Maths. Or math if you're American, but it's wrong! There are 5 levels to each, and each time you beat one you gain a new ability or new item. For example, beating Art means you get a health boost from kissing girls. It led to some weird situations where I'm running away from bullies like, "Where are the fucking girls? Kiss me before I die!" Only the 6 original classes get you the good stuff though. English, Art, Gym, Shop, Chemistry and Photography. The new classes net you some funky outfits, which are fine, but it wasn't enough to make me want to attend instead of doing missions for example. Because you can skip lessons if you so desire, but you will miss out on these useful abilities if you do so. I recommend at least doing Gym for new fighting moves and weapon upgrades, Chemistry for the ability to craft weapons like firecrackers in your room, and Art for the health boosts I mentioned earlier. Also helps that Art is the most fun lesson in the game. It's the only lesson I go back to after I finish the 5 levels, because it's just a good time. You have to fill in the canvas while avoiding the stationery like scissors and erasers. Another penalty of missing lessons is being hunted down for truancy. Similar to GTA, you can get in trouble with the authority figures if you misbehave. This covers a wide number of things like truancy, violence, misconduct, theft, and not even following the school's dress code. There's a load here that you might be caught out for, so keep an eye on your trouble meter next to the minimap. If it's yellow, the hunters are on the move, and if it's red, they are actively trying to bust you. In fact, some offences can turn your bar red straight away, like beating up little kids, attacking authority heads, or harassing girls. If you get caught too many times, you'll have to serve detention by mowing lawns weirdly, but normally you'll have all your weapons taken away, so it's not a huge deal, but later in the game when you've pretty much matched Ratchet and Clank's arsenal, it sucks to have your armada confiscated. I say I'm odd because you can obtain quite a few weapons in this game, although can you really call a carton of eggs weapons, unless it's Halloween? You can also get back at those girls who called your pigtails ugly with stink bombs.
This game helped me deal with some personal problems.
Despite the game being small in the GTA setting, there is still a ton to do. If you're short on cash, you can run a paper round or mow a lawn, and people will also ask you to do errands. All the fucking time! There's bike races to prove your worth, and even a carnival where you can play all sorts of wacky games. You can even win some sweet loot, like new clothes or even a scooter for you to zip around in. Admittedly, I never bothered picking up the scooter because motion controls makes getting tickets the grind of your life.
But if you missed out like me, not to worry, because there's still plenty of ways of increasing your swag.
There are clothes shops around town, and there is quite a bit of customization here. Not only can you buy clothes, but you can also visit barbers to get a fresh new do and even get a tattoo. Yeah, that's definitely a fish. Certain outfits do bring around secondary effects, like the red ninja suit lets you trespass without getting in trouble for it. Unfortunately, it doesn't say anywhere in game that this is the case. I found this out by looking online. Because the cutscenes are in real time, the costume changes can make some scenes incredible.
Sure, I've been a bitch at times, been nasty, but I don't deserve this. My life is over. I mean, I've always wanted to be a model, but not like this. Everybody's laughing at me. I can't bear it.
Everybody's always laughing at me.
Around the world, you'll find a number of collectibles like rubber bands and some collector's cards. Collecting all these does net you some nice rewards, but it's kind of an effort to go and find all these. It's something I personally skipped out on, but if you do end up finding them all, you can get like a rubber band ball, which I hear is like firing off a nuke in the playground. I touched on it before, but I do just want to stress how one of Bully's strongest aspects is just how alive the world feels. It's no small feat to have achieved as much attention to detail as Rockstar have here. Maybe not so much in the graphical department, as it hasn't aged super gracefully, but everything feels real thanks to the small touches here and there. People are having their own conversations and interactions. Bullies are chasing nerds and prefects are chasing bullies. Girls are having a bitch about men and jocks are bragging about who they smashed last night. It's great stuff and really makes it feel like there's more going on in the world than just what you're up to. Now of course this is a sandbox adventure, so if you just want to mess around in this shit heap of a town, you can do. Sniping people with slingshots from the top of roofs, humiliating kids in front of their peers, or going the other way and helping them wake up.
Cause you had a bad day.
The variables are countless, and I've been here all day if I described everything you can do in this game. It is absolutely packed, and Bully makes you want to do all of it. And I would have too if I didn't want to get this video up before the end of the year. In comparison, GTA feels like it has a bit too much to it at times, making me feel a bit overwhelmed. I don't think GTA needs to tone down the amount of gameplay it offers, but I do think given the context of the scale of the story in Bully and the lengths these characters can go to, the amount you can do and what you can do, it fits together really well. I think Bully also does a great job at introducing new gameplay elements through missions, then allowing you to experience these again outside of missions, like bike races and graffitiing. With so much to do, you'll want to keep an eye on the clock, as one of the most important things is structuring your day. Each day in Bully lasts for around 20 minutes, starting at 8 AM and ending at 2 AM. Make sure you're in bed by then, otherwise you'll pass out and lose a shitload of money.
Give me your money, punk.
You'll have to pay attention as to what is available at certain times, like lessons and missions. Some might even be available at the same time, so you have to plan what you're going to do before the day is over. There's no overarching time limit, but for example, if you miss the first lesson of geography, you're going to have to wait another 4 days before you can take the lesson again. Just a side note, geography in this game made me realise how Poland is actually insanely big and not the size of my thumb. If you've got a busy day ahead, you're going to want to get around quickly, and the game gives you the tools to do this in several ways. There's the scooter as mentioned before, along with bikes you can earn in your trusty skateboard, which I guarantee you'll be using the most as it's the only extra movement option you have on your item wheel. The scooter and bike have to be stored away in the garage, so when you're not near one of these, you'll have to either steal one or just use your skateboard. Using the bike is cooler though.
Yeah, sick.
There's also bus stops for you to travel back to the school straight away, acting as a means of fast travel. But there's also other save points you can unlock, so you don't need to travel all the way back there every time you want to save. These unlocks come in the form of challenges, and each faction has one. Most of the time you just have to walk in and beat up some chumps, but not the nerds. Oh no, the only way you'll get nerd respect is by being good at a video game.
This is extremely relatable to real life.
And let me tell you, this game is tough. You have to get the sumo as fat as possible by eating good foods, avoiding rotten ones, and especially getting out of the way of the dreaded pufferfish. This was actually a good challenge, although admittedly because my capture card cut off the top of the screen on my TV, I couldn't actually see my score, so I honestly didn't know when I could slow down.
I just love challenges. They make me so excited.
I bring up challenge because there really wasn't much genuine difficulty I had with the game. No notorious missions, nothing that took me more than one attempt, except the nerd game. I never found myself getting frustrated unless it was to do with the shitty motion controls. It was a really good balance I found, comfortable enough so you can enjoy the game without much effort, but also engaging enough to keep you interested. I find most Rockstar games do this actually. For example, in missions the game will always tell you where to go and what to do, but because of the amount of actions you can perform and the places to go in the game, I think it's needed to streamline the experience instead of letting the player get lost and take 7 years to press a button. But all of that goes out of the window when it comes to English. English has you make words out of a group of scrambled letters, and let me tell you now, if you wanted this game to feel like school, then this is it. When playing this, I was looking around for my mates to start throwing pencils at, but alas, I was all alone. I think it's important to note that I'm hopeless at games like Scrabble, so what chances I have with this beast? Not to mention you have to make a hefty amount of words within a measly 3 minutes.
3 minutes of heat time!
Unfortunately, the game can be difficult to look at, on a technical level anyway. Even the updated effects of the Scholarship Edition can't hide the slightly warped faces and iffy textures of the original release. But while these kind of dated visuals hurt other games released around this time, it weirdly fits Bully. Everyone looks angry, murky and ugly. It works out for the atmosphere Bully is going for, a dreary, gritty English kind of school. The face movements aren't bad either, you can clearly tell what emotion each character is displaying, and the comedic effects of their body movements aren't lost due to age. I will say it is impressive how when certain holidays are on, like Halloween and Christmas, the game gets a makeover, placing pumpkins and holly around the school and town, even altering some textures when these events come along. The kids also dress up in different costumes. I think a lot of work went into this for admittedly only a few missions. As for how the game performs, the draw distance is great with occasional cases of pop-in, but the game can really struggle when it's loading in certain areas. I've had brief freezes when going to the carnival in certain areas of town while the game loads it in, and the frame rate can fluctuate pretty badly too. I can't say these issues are present on the 360 version of the game, but the Wii and the PS2 definitely struggled to keep the game at a consistently good performance. On the audio side, I think the soundtrack is good. It complements the visual aesthetic with music that screams cheeky but innocent. It uses the same instruments in every track for the most part, but with a different spin depending on the situation, whether you're riding a bike, just loitering around, or picking a fight with one of the many factions. I love how every song just has this mischievous undertone to it. It sounds great and fits the game perfectly. The voice acting is also top notch. In fact, I'd say it's the standout piece of the presentation. Rockstar have a talent for scoping out voice actors who convey comedy through polygons on a screen so well. Not only comedy either, but also some serious moments like between Jimmy and Gary. Everyone does an absolutely stellar job here, and every cutscene was great fun to watch.
Everybody says that you're mean and angry and you like fighting. Gary said you're so mad because you're sexually confused. Can you please get rid of all these people for me? Please, Jimmy?
What's in it for me?
I'm a princess!
Oh.
And I need people to do things for me! So hurry up because I want to be first!
Bully for me is the quintessential game in a school setting. When I was playing through it, I was looking back to my own school days very fondly. Of course, I can't say I was chasing some chav through a nuclear factory, but the game keeps itself grounded enough to be relatable without being mundane. The story is the best story Rockstar have told in any of the games that I've played. The characters are all fantastic with some incredible voice performances, and the atmosphere of the game just accentuates this. There's a ton of stuff to do that I'll have you playing for hours, unlocking new abilities and costumes, playing in many arcade games, or just hanging out at the carnival. There's even a multiplayer mode exclusive to the Scholarship Edition that I unfortunately couldn't try out due to not having another nunchuck, which does bring me to say that if you're going to play this game, play any version but this one. It's unfortunately riddled with mandatory motion controls that really do put a damper on what is a stellar game. Because of that though, I won't be holding it against it. If I were to recommend to anyone their first Rockstar game, I think it would be this one. Travel back in time to somewhat innocent adolescence if you're past your school days, or just enjoy them through an over-the-top setting if you're still there. Either way, you'll have a great time on your journey to becoming king of the school.
You're dead! No!